Hello, Steve here, and you are watching Cash College. Yes, we are back at it again. 2 videos per week this Friday. Happy Friday. What can I say? I'm just working hard to deliver you guys the goods. And speaking of goods, this will be a really fun one today, and that's because we're going to be going through my entire February budget as well as giving you guys an update on my investment portfolio. Yes, that's right. We're going to cover my income and my expenses in nitty-gritty detail, and then we'll talk about the stocks that I bought in the past few weeks and also give you just a complete overview of my entire portfolio. So I really hope you guys like this. I wanted to document the process and the evolution of my finances and my investment portfolio pretty much in real time so you guys can follow along and we can all learn and grow together. But before we get into all of that, I have an important announcement actually. For you guys who've been watching the channel, then you'll notice that a few videos back I actually teased this new mic I got, remember? Well, today I'm finally revealing why I have that mic. Introducing Creator Coin. Da 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 da. What is Creator Coin, you ask? Well, it's a podcast, of course. For those of you guys who guessed that, you were right. But not just any old podcast. My friend Maddie and I have decided to start one together to talk about the interesting intersection between creators and finance. One of the coolest things about starting this YouTube channel was just getting the opportunity to meet really great people. And one of those people was Maddie. And if you're not familiar with Maddie Hapoya, he is a filmmaking YouTuber who just recently crossed 1 million subs actually, which is pretty crazy. And he's just an all-around great dude. So yeah, Creator Coin, really cool, really stoked. After you watch today's video right now, make sure you go and sub to the new YouTube podcast channel and check out our first episode. Hope you guys like it. Alright, let's move along to the budget, shall we? So we'll start with the big picture here and then we'll work our way into the details. So first of all, I earned over $4,000 of income in February and spent over $2,000. And this is before tax income, keep in mind. But I already have money set aside for taxes, and I'll also likely be decreasing my taxes payable by a decent amount due to business write-offs that I'll have throughout the year. However, as a rule of thumb, if you're a freelancer or somebody who's self-employed, it's always a good idea to estimate your average tax rate and then set aside that money every time you get paid. I think my spending this month was a little on the high end, and I'll show you why. Let's drill down into exactly what I spent my money on. So here we can see the various main categories of expenses for the month. Now, I've broken it down into living expenses, business expenses, needs, and finally wants. You can see I'm not wanting for much in February. So how about, let me take a moment to define what each category represents here. So living expenses represents the fixed costs that I have every single month, like my rent, car insurance, internet, and utilities. And we can actually drill down further into my living expenses so we can see how the total amount breaks down into these 4 main categories. Rent is clearly the highest one by quite a bit, and the other ones are relatively small in comparison. And these expenses represent my share of the total. And that's because I live with my girlfriend, Justine, which means that not only do I get to listen to her sing all day long while I'm trying to do sound editing on my videos, but I also get to split expenses like this in half. But seriously, she sings like 8 hours straight every single day. It's crazy. Somebody please sponsor my videos so I can have a studio that I can work in. Let's hope she doesn't watch this video. Anyway, moving back to our categories here. Business expenses represents things that I spend my money on for the YouTube channel. So these are things that I will be planning on writing off against my income, which should help reduce my tax burden come tax time next year. Next, we have my needs, which represents basically what I need to survive. And as you can see, I'm not a very needy person. This month I literally only spent money on food for this category, and honestly these days there's not really a need for much, right? I'm not going anywhere, I'm not really seeing anyone, so you know, there's not a lot that I need. So it's been pretty chill for this category. And for my wants, that represents things like takeout food, subscriptions to Netflix, Spotify, and kind of more entertainment-based things like that. And once again, not much to do these days, so I'm not really wanting for much either. But here's the thing. My business expenses are quite a bit higher than they would normally be. And that's because I bought something. Oh baby, a Herman Miller chair. So hear me out on this. Being the financially disciplined person that I am, being the financial independence pursuer that I am, I snagged this chair off of somebody for $720. Now listen, these chairs they're top of the line. They normally retail for well over $1,000. So this was a great deal on the chair. And before I bought this chair, I was literally sitting on a stool with no backrest for months at my desk, and my back was breaking. Personally, I think it's really important to take care of your body, and especially like your back and your spine, because if that starts to, kind of crap out on you, that's gonna suck a lot later in life. So I want to make sure I'm taking good care of myself if I'm sitting at a desk for long hours working at it. And plus, that of course is going to be a business expense, which means I'll get a little tax write-off off of that as well. So that's why my business expenses were quite high this month. Now, let's move on to my special little savings waterfall here, so we can see how much money I actually saved this month. So after deducting all the expenses from my income, I just love I love waterfall graphs, they're really cool. I landed at $1,981 of savings for February. So that's not bad. That's not bad at all. In percentage terms, this is actually about 45% of my income saved this month, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now, without the chair, though, we would be up to about 62%, but hey, I'd have a broken back, right? So I'm okay with 45% this month. So now that I have these savings, what is my plan with them? I always like to direct new savings towards something, right? That's kind of the key to building wealth. You got to give your money a job. So this month, I'll be moving these savings to shore up my emergency fund a little bit. I'd like to get that back up to around $10,000. I recently moved some money around in a few different accounts, so this dipped below $10,000, so I want to pop that back up there. And for those of you who are wondering, I keep 3 to 6 months of my expenses in a high interest savings account. Now, I personally use EQ Bank for this, as they have a really competitive interest rate. It's 1.5% interest right now, which is way, way, way higher than most banks have for their interest rate. And actually, if you open up a TFSA, this is new with EQ Bank. So if you're already with them, or if you've been kind of looking at them, listen to this. If you open up a TFSA with them right now, you can get 2.3% interest on money that you park in there. That's a really good interest rate right now. So if you need a high interest savings account, somewhere to, just park some money and let it sit safely, I highly recommend EQ Bank. I use them. I love them. I'll put a link to them down in the description below. Okay, so that concludes the budget for February there. Now, let's talk about my $80,000 stock portfolio. So do you guys remember the Kingdom framework that I'm using to basically build this investment portfolio? If you've been following the channel, you'll probably remember it, but if not, at the end of this video, I'll include an end screen with a link to that video that you can watch, so you can get familiar with this Kingdom idea. But it's really fun. But as a quick refresher, we have my treasury, which is kind of the innermost part of my keep, and the treasury will house my cash. So that EQ Bank account that I was just talking about would belong here, for example. And then we have my royal keep. This is where assets like bonds would go, but I don't plan on owning bonds for the time being. And finally, we have the barracks. So this is where my soldiers, my army would belong. So this is where the stocks are housed. And there are also a few other additional categories, like I talked about in the other video, like explorers of crypto, wizards, and all this other fun stuff. But you'll have to go watch that video. I'm not going to go over all that crazy stuff again today. Let's just dive in, shall we? So the theme of my investments lately has been summed up by one phrase: buying the dip. I made a number of stock purchases while the market took a beating over the past little while, especially tech stocks. So I bought 3 shares of Tesla at an average price of $633 right around here on the chart. So I kind of watched and waited as a number of these high-flying names, they basically fell around 30% really quickly. And then that's when I made my move. And I also bought 21 shares of the ARK Genomic Fund for an average price of around $87. I also bought 8 shares of Square for an average price of $210, basically at the same time as Tesla. So you can see that all of these stocks basically moved in lockstep with one another. Their charts are extremely similar. So I was able to buy all of them on the same dip, virtually in the same place on the charts that you see. And finally, I also started a smaller position in Teladoc with 3 shares at $177. So for this stock, I almost bought this short-term dip perfectly actually. I was really lucky. I was only a couple dollars off of the bottom, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, pretty lucky with that one. So in total, this is the overall breakdown of my individual stock portfolio so far. So I'm basically using 10,000 Canadian dollars to make this individual stock portfolio, and that's a bit over 7 grand in US dollar terms. And buying these stocks, I've invested about just under $6,000 so far, and I'm already up 12%. What can I say, guys? I'm just a expert stock picker. I'm just kidding. That doesn't really matter right now that I'm up 12%. I'm buying these for the long term. Sure, I may have been lucky on this dip in the short term. I think it's more of a psychological thing, just having the right psychology to know when to buy something, like when it's falling aggressively and it's a good company you want to own. It's a good time to buy. But yeah, in the long term, it doesn't matter that I'm up 12% right now. In fact, I actually am hoping and kind of anticipating that these stocks are actually going to drop even more. They've been flying so high, their valuations have gotten a little bit stretchy, so I would personally like to see them fall a bit more, and I'll continue buying if they do. We're about 30% down from the top that they've experienced, which is, quite a sizable correction in them, but still, I'd still like to see them come down a little bit more. And even if that means me losing money in the short term, that's okay, because right now I'm a buyer, I'm investing for the long term, and I want low prices. This is the psychological shift that needs to happen to basically be a successful long-term investor, I think. Oh, and also I should point out that some of you may be going, but like, Steve, didn't you make a video like warning us about buying ARK ETFs or warning us about buying Tesla? And yeah, I definitely did, but the point wasn't that those aren't good companies and that I don't like them. I do like them, and that's what I said in the videos. The point was that these types of high-flying stocks, these very exciting stocks, can experience, a lot of hype that causes them to run up to very extreme valuations. And those videos were more to warn people about purely chasing the price action of a stock as opposed to investing in the company itself. Alright, now let's move on to the ETF portfolio. So I have 2 ETF portfolios going at the moment, and for one of these I'm using Questrade, and for the other I'm using Wealthsimple Trade. So let's start with Wealthsimple. So I'm using Wealthsimple Trade for my TFSA ETF account as well as my RSP. Now I have about over $26,000 between both of those accounts in this portfolio that I'm going to be using to buy basically a portfolio of diversified ETFs. And Wealthsimple Trade is my preferred way to make Canadian investments, and that's because it's completely commission free. You can buy and sell anything without paying any commission, so I love that. I highly recommend the app, and if you want to get started investing, check out the link down below for them and try them out for yourself. I think they're great. So far, I bought 24 shares of the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, VFE, as well as 13 shares of the Vanguard Emerging Markets ETF, VEE. Now, I'm pretty bullish on emerging markets over the next decade. There's a lot of interesting trends that are kind of shaping up, but I'll talk more about that in another video. And you can also see here, I have a few small positions in a few stocks for fun here. I split about $1,000 of play money basically on a few asymmetric bets here that'll either win big or lose big. I don't really care either way. It's a very small percentage of my portfolio, but it's kind of like just a little bit of a fun hobby, I guess you could say, and I'll talk more about these in another video as well. Now let's head on over to Questrade. So the reason I have one portfolio in Wealthsimple Trade and another in Questrade is because in addition to my TFSA and RRSP, I also have a Lira account with almost $40,000 in it. And unfortunately, Wealthsimple Trade does not offer Liras, so I couldn't use them to do it. Otherwise, I definitely would. But Questrade was the next best bet in my opinion because they offer commission-free ETF purchases. And a Lira account, for those of you who are wondering, is a locked-in retirement account. And it's kind of an annoying account because the money is actually locked in. Unlike an RRSP where you can pull money out at any time, you just have to pay taxes on it. With the Lira, it's actually locked in until you basically declare that you are retired. And the reason I have a Lira is because my former employer offered basically a matching contribution plan. And so that was some free money and I obviously took advantage of that. Always remember, if your employer offers you a matching RRSP or 401k or any kind of plan like that, definitely enroll yourself in it, make those contributions so you can get the match because that is just free money for you. So I just transferred this account into Questrade, so I haven't bought anything with it yet. I need to sell all the old ETFs in the account and then I'm going to rebuild it. So more to come on this one. And that's it for stocks. So now let's talk about crypto. So for the crypto portion of my portfolio, I've been using two apps to both buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then I transfer the coins to my external wallet. So I use both ShakePay and Newton to buy my crypto. I highly recommend these apps and I have a referral link down below where if you sign up and trade $100 with either of these apps, Newton will pay you $25 and ShakePay will pay you $30. And if you want to do what I did when I first signed up using somebody's referral link, I signed up for both of them. So then I got $55 and you can too. Those links are down below. So I currently have about 1,300 on Newton and 650 on ShakePay. And then in my actual wallet itself, I have about $8,400. And this is split between about 80% Bitcoin and 20% Ethereum. And the crypto portfolio has been doing pretty well. You know, it's pushing up against all-time highs again. If you caught my video where I talked about the stock to flow model for Bitcoin, which is what you see again here, then you'll know that this chart is basically calling for Bitcoin at $100,000 within a year or so, which sounds pretty crazy. And it's still right on track according to the model as we can see. But once again, though, no one is saying this model predicts the future. I am not saying that. Who knows what's going to happen? I just think it's really interesting. But please be careful. Please trade responsibly. Sometimes don't you just think, man, there's so much like great stuff on the internet and on YouTube where you can just learn so many things that school never taught you. I always think that when I'm looking at YouTube. It's incredible. And then sometimes don't you think, man, if only there was like a course I could take that would just be basically a crash course in personal finance, what I never learned in school. Hey friend, there is, and I made it for you. That's right, I basically made the personal finance course that you missed in school and that you should take to learn the fundamentals of building wealth and reaching financial independence if that's something that you want to do in your life. It's linked in the description down below and it's been taken by many satisfied folks who I receive really nice messages from. They tell me about how they're finally getting their financial crap together and it honestly just warms my heart. It's a beautiful thing. And if you want to get your financial crap together too, once again, check that out in the description down below. All right, now hopefully there should be a bunch of stuff appearing on the screen somewhere. So we should have a link where you can go and check out the Creator Coin podcast. Make sure you go and do that. Subscribe to our new podcast channel. And also there should be a button where you can check out that video where I talk about my kingdom philosophy for my investment portfolio that I'm building. Maybe just, right click, open new tab on all these links and set yourself up for just having a great Friday, viewing all this wonderful stuff. And that is all.